our new series together. This is a partnership between the YWCA High Point, NC Works, and NC Works Next Gen, Guilford County, including the Guilford County Partnership for Children. I'm Lamisha Staten, Community Outreach Manager for the partnership. We are so grateful to each of you. We've had some technical difficulties this morning, but we made it through it, and we're glad that you stuck in and hung in there with us. We're excited to bring this new partnership to you called Reigniting Careers, Burning Down Obstacles to Your Success workshops and virtual hiring event. We are dedicated to staying as a resource to you as we move through COVID-19 together to make sure that our families have gainful employment and to help our citizens and our community members get back to work. We know that as we make sure that families get back to work, it also helps our children have a wonderful and healthy start for their future as well. And so we are just so grateful. We will be hosting a series of workshops over the next few weeks, one per week, leading up to a virtual hiring event on Thursday, October 22nd. So we do invite you to stick with us, and you are welcome to join us for these workshops. They will be held each Thursday. And again, that virtual hiring event will be Thursday, October the 22nd. We will have more details about that coming forward to you so you can be prepared, but we invite you to participate with us. Today's speaker is Ms. Tori Ziner. She is the Career Advisor and Talent Development Specialist with NC Works Career Center there in High Point. So we are so very grateful to have Tori joining us this morning. She has a wonderful presentation prepared for us to get us prepared in building the perfect resume. So we're grateful to have her. I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Heidi Majors, who is the Executive Director at the YWCA High Point. And Heidi, we thank you for your partnership.
Great. Thank you so much, Lamisha. And I'd just like to echo everything that Lamisha said. This is a wonderful partnership that we are offering with the YWCA Women's Resource Center. It is so important at this point in time for individuals to reignite your careers. And what a great opportunity we have to hear from Tori. At this point in time, I'm going to turn it over to Jeremiah with Next Gen.
Awesome. So yes, I'm Jeremiah, the outreach coordinator, and I want all young adults to know in NC Works that you know could get connected with NCRs, that you're not forgotten about. We have programming and services for you as well. Career readiness services for individuals 16 to 24. We provide funds for trades, paid internships, and employment assistance. And we're very grateful for this partnership to just collaborate with the YWCA Partnership for Children and Tori as well to just share resources that are available to you in the community. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Tori to share information with us, okay?
Thank you all, and good morning. My name is Tori Ziner. I'm a career advisor here at the NC Works in High Point, and we are going to talk today about one of my very favorite topics, which is the resume. The resume is so important because it is your ticket in the door, okay? You might be thinking, Tori, you're kind of crazy that a resume is one of your favorite topics. And I'll tell you, it used to not be one of my favorite things, but that was because I didn't know the purpose of it, why it was important, or how to create one that was effective and got me that interview. So today we are going to start off our workshop series with talking about why a resume is important, and we're going to go through some of the steps on how to build one. So if we can go to the next slide for me, please. So today we're going to go over how to prepare an effective resume, what to include, what not to include, how to market your skills and experience. We are going to go through each part of the resume. I'm going to give you examples of how I want them to look like, how I want you to be able to use your resume as a marketing tool to brand yourself. All right, next slide, please. All right, so a resume tells a story. The resume should tell your story. Our primary goal for this workshop is for you to gain the knowledge and experience to develop a resume that is effective for you. The first and most important thing is to have a resume that is clear and advertises your skills, your qualifications, your experience, your education, and your achievements to the employer. So the major questions that your resume should answer is, can you do the job? Will you do the job? And are you a good fit? So can you do the job? Will you do the job? And are you a good fit? That is what employers are looking for when they're looking at your resume. So your resume is your first introduction. It's your ticket in the door is what I've heard it called. And I really like that expression because the main purpose of it is for you to secure that interview. It's your first impression. Your resume is never finished. We are always growing professionally. So I recommend that you have a draft that you're always working on and you save it and you update it regularly. So your resume also must be error-free, concise, and consistent. And we'll talk about what that means later on in the presentation. All right, next slide, please. So the basics. We want a hiring manager or recruiter to look at your resume and see that it is effectively organized with all the information that's relevant to the job, okay? So your resume is going to be specific to the job that you are applying for. You have less than 6 seconds to make that impression with that hiring manager. So we want to put all the important information, we want to prioritize it and put it at the top in the summary of qualifications. We want that part to be customizable to the position that you're applying for. So what does it mean to be consistent verb tense and formatting? I want your verb tenses throughout your resume to all be past tense. I don't want you to go switch back and forth between present tense, past tense. So that verb tense needs to be consistent throughout. The formatting also needs to be consistent. When someone looks at your resume, they need to say that this is a professional. And that resume shows, if it's a professional formatting, it shows that. So for me, my first resume was a super artistic resume. I'm not very proud of it. It was asymmetrical columns, but I thought that that was me showing who I was in a resume. But what we want to do is put your best step forward and have that professional resume. So that includes having formatting that is bolded, that is all the same font in a professional font. So that's what we mean by consistent verb tense and formatting. And then also overall all one style. All right, next slide, please. So the basics, what not to include. So a lot of times we get overwhelmed with what to include in the resume, that we put in a lot of information that we don't.
It's gonna block me out, isn't it?
So we want to I want you to be sure to know what not to include. You don't need to include information like your hobbies, your likes and your dislikes, your interests. Don't put that on your resume. Let's save that for cover letters. Let's save that for interviews if that comes up naturally, or even your LinkedIn profile summary. Some of those extracurricular events where you're involved in the community, let's put those in other places, because your resume, we need to save space for the really important skills. Don't exaggerate or lie. This is not a very good idea to do that for your resume. We want employers to know that you are who you say you are. If you lie on the resume, they will eventually find out, and people can get fired because they lied on their resumes. We don't want to put you in that situation. We want to be honest. We want to put that best foot forward, and we want to be consistent throughout your professional experience. So don't give personal information. That is really similar to don't include extraneous information. You don't want to talk about your social security card. Definitely don't put that information on your resume. Sometimes we're even leaning towards not putting your address on your resume because some employers might discriminate based upon the neighborhood you live in. So you can just put your city and state instead. So don't give any information that might identify your age. We'll talk about that later on in the presentation as well. Next, I don't want you to use any I or my in your resume. This can be difficult for some people because it's a very natural word that we use when we speak, but we're trying to condense information and save space. And when you're putting it on your resume, we can assume that you're meaning yourself. All right, so don't list your references. We don't need this. We don't even need to put can be can provide references upon asking. We don't need to put that on the resume because hiring managers know that they can ask for those things on their resumes. So don't include acronyms or abbreviations. We want resumes to have the full words. We want you to explain what those acronyms mean because not everybody you might be speaking to a hiring manager that doesn't know what that specific technical skill that you like the RPM or a different acronym. They might not know what that means, but if you write it out for them, they're going to notice, oh, that's a skill that this department has asked for. All right, next slide, please. So next we are going to talk about formatting. All right, next. So there are 3 different types of resume formats, and I'm going to show you a version of the functional and the combination resume. So the first one is the reverse chronological. This is a pretty typical resume that most people use. It is for people with lots of work experience that's relevant to the position. It is called reverse chronological because we put the information that you did most recent at the top, and then it goes back from there. The next resume is functional and skill-based. So this is a little bit different kind of resume. It focuses on your skills and rather than your specific positions that you've had with an employer. So if you have very little work history, but you have lots of skills, we can highlight that using this sort of format for your resume. And then the last one is a combination. So it is great for people who have a very diverse skill set. And it's really up to you to choose which type of format you'd like to use to communicate your skills and abilities best to your employer. So we'll go ahead and go to the next slide to look at what a skills-based resume looks like. So as you see here, Mr. John Smith has his resume broken down by skill. He has highlights of qualifications at the top, and then he has his professional experience just below that. But you see, he doesn't include where he worked or the dates that you would most likely see on a typical resume. He highlights just the skill, which is a medical experience. And then he highlights the specific skills that he has under that umbrella skill. So this is how you would format your skills-based resume with each of the skills at the top, and then go into detail about the specific skills just below that umbrella skill. All right, next, please. Here you have a hybrid resume format. You see the qualification summary up there near the top, and then you have the skills overview. So here he highlighted the specific skills that he has up at the top and then went into his work experience just below. I really like the hybrid resume format because it highlights a vast amount of skills that a person can have, and it puts it right at the top for employers to see right away what that person can offer their company. So I really do like the hybrid format. I think it's very versatile as well. All right, next slide, please. So resume layout best practices. We should always have our resume to one page. There are some exceptions, and that is only if you have a very broad and extensive employment history, but typically we want just that one page because remember, hiring managers are only having 6 seconds or less to look at your resume. So we don't want to give multiple pages. If you have 3 pages, we just need to go ahead and cut it back. We can communicate effectively and cut it down to at least 2 pages. We need clear section headings. This helps us be able, the hiring manager, to scan your resume, and we want them to be able to quickly scan that and look for those specific skills and experiences that we have that they're looking for. And in order to do that, we also need 1-inch margins around the page. That helps our words to stand out and not look so full and busy. All experience is past tense. So I mentioned that earlier, and I want to mention it again. It's very easy, and this is a mistake I see on resumes all the time. People jumping back and forth between past tense and present tense with their action verbs. And we want everything to be in past tense. And then we want an easy and readable font. We don't want anything that is, we just want to stick with professional. Leave the fun fonts for your emails with your friends and family. That should not be going on our resume. So Arial, Tacoma, Calibri, these are all good fonts to use. And Comic Sans, which is, I think, the default font style in a lot of words and emails, is not considered a professional font. So we don't want to use that. So I do want to make sure that you all know that you need to change the font to a different, more professional font. All right, next slide, please. So we don't want to make our font too small. We need to stick with 10 or 12 point font, and you know, nothing smaller than that. We don't want people to pull out their magnifying glasses to be able to read your resume. We just don't want to do that. A good rule of thumb is to save your resume as a PDF. I like to save it as my last name. So I would put Ziner dash resume dash, and then I would put the company that I'm sending that resume to. Because remember, I'm making specific resumes for specific positions. If I am sending out a resume to Walmart and Target, and I accidentally send my Target resume to Walmart, that would be a bad thing. So I want to make sure I save my resume with that company name, so I ensure that I send it to the correct company. And then it's also a good rule of thumb to save your resume as a PDF. A PDF is not editable, and it saves all the formatting that you worked hard to create. So it's important to, in Word, just drop down, don't save it as a Word document, save it as a PDF, and then attach that to your application or your resume with your cover letter. And then again, no typos. I have heard that hiring managers, if they see a typo in a resume, they just throw it out right away. And we don't want that. We want them to look at your resume all the way through, and not for you to be disqualified from a job that you might be perfectly capable for and a great fit just because of a typo. So I want you to get as many eyes on your resume as you can. Send it to your mom, send it to your sister, send it to your cousin, send it to your pastor. Have your loved ones and the people who support you look over your resume for grammar and spelling before you send it out. The more eyes you get on it who can help you find those little mistakes, the better. Because again, we do not want your resume being disqualified just because you had a typo on it. All right, so next we're going to talk about the contact and summary sections of your resume. So to begin with, what not to include in this section. Don't include your birthday. You need to have a professional email. A professional email could be your name, your initials at gmail.com. Don't use hotandtasty@gmail.com or any other kind of unprofessional email. All right, so my first email address was waterbaby. I am not going to use that as my professional email address. I've got a Gmail account that is free to make with my first and last name. And so that's the best way to ensure that you have a professional email. Just use your name. You don't need your headshot on your resume. They don't need to know what you look like. And plus your headshot takes a lot of space on your resume. So on the next slide, we will see what your contact section should look like. So it should have your first and last name, phone number, and email address. So definitely needs your contact information. So I have two examples here of what this contact information section can look like. Both of these are perfectly fine to use. There's one that takes up a little bit less space, and that's mine that I put here as an example down at the bottom. And I have my given name, which is Victoria, but I always go by Tori, and so I put that in parentheses. So if your name is Timothy, but you go by Tim, you can write Timothy and then put in parentheses Tim, just like this. But I like either one of these are perfectly fine to use. If you need more space on your resume, use the contact information that takes format that takes less space. If you don't have a lot of information on your resume because you have a short professional background, use the contact information format that takes up more space so your resume looks more fuller. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so professional summaries. I get a lot of questions about how do I make a professional summary? What is a professional summary? Why do I need to use one? And these are all great questions. So the professional summary is 2 to 3 sentences that summarize your professional life. It highlights why you are a good fit for this job. It can highlight credentials you have, how many years of experience you have, education or training backgrounds, accomplishments, strengths, skills, characteristics. I mean, it can highlight so many things, but you want to make sure that you're targeting it specifically to the job that you are applying for. So think about key skills or key qualities that you have as a professional that meet the needs of that company and that job that you're applying for. And that's what you're going to use in your professional summary. So should you use one? That is a great question. Some people do. It's best used for professionals with years of experience that tie together with a theme. Or if you have a broad range of experience and you need something that ties it together, like skills, you can also use a professional summary. It's rather straightforward, and if you don't need one, you can use it for additional space to create more bullet points. So it is a strategy that some people use, but if you have a professional experience that speaks for itself, I'd rather you use that space to describe the accomplishments that you've had in your position. All right, so next slide, please. So if you're kind of looking for what to include in your professional summary, here are some of the things that I'd like you to think about. What key accomplishments have you had? What education or training credentials do you have? Do you have a quantity that you can add to it, like the number of years of experience you've had in a certain field? You really want the employer to know the value that you bring to the company. All right, next slide, please. So before you make a professional summary, I want you to just take a moment of introspection. I want you to connect the dots between where you've been and where you're going. And that is what you're going to highlight in that professional summary. So here's an example, customer support representative with 5+ years of experience in the IT industry. So they listed the job title and the years of experience. And then you can add 1 or 2 achievements or skills or responsibilities that you had. So then the next sentence would be specialized in technical support, customer care, and user retention. And then the desired goal, looking for new opportunities as a support lead for a SaaS company. So you can be very specific in your professional summary. This is where you want to be able to edit it specifically to the job that you're applying for. So, you know, if you're applying for a Walmart job and you're tailoring it to Walmart, you want to make sure that you include keywords from the Walmart job description in your professional summary. And then make sure you send that exact resume to the Walmart instead of sending it to another employer. So it's very important that those things align or it could be a big mistake that could end up really biting you. All right, next slide, please. So this is, I really want to highlight that employers want to know that you understand their needs. Your summary should be work-centered and not self-centered. And what do I mean by this? So I've seen many professional summaries that say, I have 5 years of customer service and I'm looking for a position where I can grow in my job and has, let's say, training options. So that is an example of a professional summary that's self-centered. It is what you want. The employer wants to know that you understand what they want and that you are the answer to what they want. So your professional summary shouldn't be about what you want. It's about how you are answering what the employer wants and needs. So it should have those keywords that are coming from the job description. All right, next slide, please. So here are some examples of a summary, a professional summary, and some people call them objectives. And the first one is called an objective, and it is an objective, but as you can see here, I want you to read through it. It is not about, well, I'll say it this way, it is the employer centered, it's not self-centered. So a tech-savvy customer service representative with 5+ years of experience with the objective to gain a position as a technical support representative where I can grow and utilize my proven track record of solving problems and creating positive experiences for customers. So there's some keywords in this objective: tech-savvy, technical support, proven track record of problem solving, and creative experiences. So these are all keywords that were taken exactly from the job description and plugged into the objective. But you can see how it highlights some very specific things about the person, but it is still employer-centered. Another professional summary just below that, and then one in blue as well. What stands out to me and what stands out to hiring directors about these two next ones are the numbers. So if you put a number, if you quantify your impact or quantify the time that you worked in a certain industry and you include that in your summary, it will help it stand out from others. So I want you to be able to think about how can you add in a quantity to your professional summary to help it stand out. All right, next slide, please. And now we're going to talk about the major me of your resume, which is that professional experience. I hear a lot of people calling it job experience, and I want you to give yourself more credit for it. It's professional experience. It's not just a job. You are growing and developing your professional life and your professional background. So give yourself credit where credit is due. That's the biggest advice that I give people when I do resume reviews with them. You need to give yourself more credit. What else did you do there? Let's highlight that and bring that in. So the professional experience section, it's the most important section of your resume. It's where you can sell yourself. It's where you tell your story. It's where you get to share your achievements that you've had in your past employers. And if you master this section, you will master your resume. So I want to give you all some tips and tricks for this section next. So achievement statements. Oftentimes people use their job description or a list of their responsibilities in their professional experience section. And I want you to start thinking about your achievements instead of just simply your responsibilities. So this helps you tell a story about your impact there. Your statements, which are the little bullet points under your under the company and title that you had, should have a beginning, middle, and an end. I want you to start thinking about how you helped the company grow or meet quotas or succeed. I want you to be able to quantify your impact because that will help show employers what you've done in the past. Past behavior predicts future behavior. So that will help employers know that you've done in the past and you can do it again for them. All right, next slide, please. So a way to help us come up with a format to create these statements is PAR, or achievement statements. You identify the problem, the action, and then you share the results. So I have examples of this on the next slide. So it's taking a problem and moving it towards the solution. So instead of saying responsible for office filing system, you can say you designed and implemented innovative file management system to replace antiquated system, resulting in an increase in staff efficiency. You see the difference there? That's a huge difference. You're able to quantify and talk about your impact. You increased staff efficiency. So this statement isn't perfect. I think that the person here could add in, even if they were able to figure out by how much they increase the staff efficiency. If it's 5%, put in 5%. If it's 10%, put in that 10% there. To be able to quantify impact and display that on your resume as a success is huge, and that will help you stand out from other applicants. All right, so the next slide, I have more examples. So here is on the left-hand side, you can see the job description versus an achievement statement. So the job description: complete all warehouse tasks, including packaging. So you might see this on a resume, but to make it really stand out and to turn it into an achievement statement, we can say reliably and safely assembled and transported 5,000 worth of merchandise throughout the warehouse operations, including packing, loading, and unloading each day. So this achievement statement, it highlights skills like reliability, safety, packaging, loading, and unloading. But it also talks about the impact that you had for the company. You were able to put a numerical money quantification on what you were able to do each day. So that sticks out a lot more than complete all warehouse tasks. The next statement is a similar sort of situation. Worked as a team with coworkers. Instead, we can quantify that. Trained 4 employees in assembly process, resulting in highly efficient and well-rounded team with top safety certification. So it's highlighting the results instead of just the description. So you're highlighting that achievement instead of just the description. So I hope this is starting to make a little bit more sense. I've got one more example on the next slide. So achievement statements help you stand out by showing your results. I want you to include keywords that is industry specific in your achievement statements. So here's a great example. The top is a job description, and I took this straight from a resume. And then the bottom is an achievement statement. And already just looking at it, you can see a big difference. The section below just ups the professionalism. So this is Applebee's. And on the bottom, she talks about customer satisfaction. She was able to complete the goal of 100% customer satisfaction. And so I just want you to just take a look at the difference between these two and think about how you can take your resume from a job description resume into an achievement statement. And the next slide, I will tell you how I would like you to do that. So crafting an achievement statement, it's not as hard as it looks. We've got a method here called the SOAR method, which breaks it down into 4 pieces, which makes it a lot easier. So SOAR, the first part is statement of action. What did you do? This should be an action verb that is a transferable skill that's related to your industry in some sort of way. So it can be managed or assisted with or taught. I mean, it can be connected in some sort of way to your industry. The occurrence of action. How often did this take place? Was it daily you did this? Was it weekly? And then the amount of action. So this is also another quantifier. How much or how many? And then the result. This is where we want to focus the energy on, is the results. Did you save? Did you increase? Did you decrease? Did you improve? What did you do? And that is how you craft an achievement statement. I want you to think about, how do you quantify your impact? All right, next slide talks about the questions I want you to ask yourself. So when you are crafting your resume, think about, why is this included? Why is this bullet point here? If it doesn't have a purpose there, we need to delete it and save room for something that has meaning and purpose on your resume. I want you to ask yourself, what am I missing? A lot of people don't give themselves full credit on their resume. So think about, what else did I accomplish that I'm not highlighting on this resume already? And then think about, how can I connect the dots for my employer? I'm the expert of me. They don't know me yet. I'm trying to help them understand who I am, and I want to simplify that process for them. And then think about, what keywords can I use in my resume that comes straight from the job description? So think about these questions as you're starting to craft your accomplishment statements. All right, next slide, please. So the standard format for your professional experience section is to include your job title or your position, the company name, the location of where it was, the dates that you're employed, and of course your achievement statements. All right, next slide, please. So it is so important to know about and keep in mind the ATS, the application tracking system. This is essentially a robot that companies use to figure out the best applicants for their job. To get past this little robot, we want to be able to use keywords in the job description, because that's what this robot is looking for. They're trying to match the resumes to the job description. And if your resume does not match that job description with its keywords, you're not going to show up on the list for the hiring manager to reach out to for interviews. So this is so important, because you could be the perfect person for that job, but you didn't use the keywords on the job description, and so the hiring manager won't even see your resume. And then on top of that, the hiring manager only has 6 seconds to look at your resume. So we want to make sure the first step is that you get past that ATS, because 70% of resumes submitted to job boards are never read. We want you to be in that 30%. So the key is keywords. You need to tailor each of your resumes to the job description that you are applying for. Yes, this takes a little bit more effort, but yes, it is so worth it in the long run at the end, because we want you to be in that 30%. All right. So next page, please. All right. So a lot of people wonder, how much experience do I list on my resume? This is a great question. Job hunters with no experience, no professional experience. I want you to think about your leadership experience, and we can put that on your resume. So where have you volunteered? Have you been on a committee? Have you led PTO? Are you involved with your church? I want you to think about your leadership experiences, and instead of having a section that's called professional experience, let's put leadership experience. And we're going to put your titles of the leadership opportunities that you had. We're going to put that on your resume, because there are transferable skills from those experiences that translate straight into the world of work. So we want to highlight that on your resume as well. Entry-level candidates, we want to list all the work that you've done up until now. Okay. Mid-level, this one's kind of tough to know what to put on and what to not put on. I want you to put on your resume what is relevant to the position that you're applying for. So this means that you might have multiple resumes for different industries depending on what you're applying for, and that's okay. So you might have an industry where you are customer service. So you have all your customer service roles on one resume. You might have some experience in, let's say like a tech industry. And so you put those on a different resume. And so you want to try to stick to that 1-page limit. And so that's how you kind of get around that, is you put the work experience that's relevant to the job or industry that you are applying for. So senior professionals, I want you to put up to 15 years of relevant work experience. This is kind of the max, because if not, we might be going to that 3rd page, and we don't want to do that. We want to add value into the space that we have on your resume, that 1 to 2 pages. And so stick to that 15 years. And also, I don't want you to be discriminated upon your age. And so I don't want you to put anything that's beyond 15 years, because I don't want them going ahead and ruling you out because they think that they're not going to be able to afford you, or that you're going to retire soon. So stick to that 15 years of relevant work experience. All right, next slide, please. So to recap, tailor your resume. Use keywords that are in the job posting for every resume that you send out. We have to work that ATS system to your advantage. I want you to be in that 30% that make it through. Use words from the job description in your summary, in your achievement statements, in your skills section. I want the more keywords that you have, the higher match you are, and the higher you are on that hiring manager's list. And then lastly, save as a PDF, and remember your last name, resume, and then the company that you are applying for. Save it as that. All right, so next we're going to talk about the education section of your resume, and I have examples as well. So we want you to list out all education that you have. So your program name, the university, the years that you attended, those are important. So we need those on pretty much every single one of your resumes. The optional side are your GPA. If you have above a 3.5, put it on your resume. If you have honors, let's put it on your resume. If you have, if you were an athlete and you are at a D1 school, we're going to put that on your resume, because that was like a job. Okay. If you have a minor, we're going to put that on your resume. If you studied abroad, let's put that on your resume as well. All right. So next section, I have some examples of what this looks like. One ahead, there we go. So here's 3 examples of what your education section could look like. So the top one, there is the person did not complete their college degree. So we didn't put that they completed it. We didn't put the degree earned. We just put what they were studying and the years that they studied. And that GPA is a great GPA. So we wanted to be sure to highlight that and put that on the resume as well. The next one has a Bachelor of Arts. So we add that. We also add the honors and the cumulative GPA as well. So we want to add those things that make you stand out. We don't want to add anything that's gonna kind of make the employer be like, I wonder why they put that on there. Let's put the stuff on there that makes you stand out and shows that you were working hard even back then. Okay. So if you don't have a degree, but you have continuing education certifications, that also goes under your education section. So this bottom section here is a perfect example of a continuing education certification. So they named a school and they named where it was, they named the year that they received it, and what the certification was. So it's a certification of completion, and you add that it's a part of your education background, and you add that just like it's a degree, and you add it as a certificate. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so where do we put your education section on your resume? If you have a higher education degree, I want your education to go at the top of your resume. If you don't have that, I want you to put it in the middle or at the very bottom, because that means that you have experience that the employer is looking for. So I want that and your skills to be seen first, because that's most relevant to the job. Only mention your GPA if it is impressive with a 3.5 or above. If you have a university degree, do not include your high school information on your resume at all. We can just leave that off. And I would say always include your degree year, unless you think that an employer might discriminate upon your age because they see what year you got your degree. And if that's the case, I'd like you to just delete that section, but keep your education, the diploma you received, the certification you received, keep that on there, just delete the year. Okay. All right, next section, please. So we're moving on to skills on your resume. So we are tailoring your resume. If you don't know, that's the keyword of today's presentation. It is tailoring your resume to get the job. So we want to look at the job description and list 2 or 3 skills that are required for it on our resume, skills that we have. And so that can be in a skills section, or we can include them, weave them into the professional experience that we have. Think about universal skills that are more broad instead of detailed. So when people say skills, they often think of Excel or I can communicate effectively. I want you to think about leadership, teamwork, getting along well with others, going the extra mile. These are skills that employers are also looking for that transfer beyond industry. And so if you're moving from one industry to another, be sure to use those universal skills in your resume to highlight your transferability as well. All right, next slide, please. So remember to use your space wisely. I have had someone tell me that your resume is like real estate in New York City. Every single piece of it is super important, and it needs to have a reason why it's there. So use that space wisely. Don't make your font too small. Don't go to 3 pages. Keep it 1 or 2. And if you need, and this leads me to my next point, which is the next steps. If you still feel like you need some extra help after you're going to this workshop, please reach out to a career advisor at NC Works. Resumes are one of my favorite things. Like I already said at the beginning, I am happy to look over your resume. I'm a career advisor here at NC Works in High Point, and we are here to help you get back to work, to help you get jobs, and to help you market it yourself and brand yourself in a professional way. So if we can jump to the next steps slide. There we go. Next steps. Make sure that you have a professional email signature and a professional email. Some things that people don't think about is having a professional voicemail set up. Because you're giving out your contact information on your resume and people might be calling you for a job. I want you to have a professional email set up. It can say, "Hi, my name is Tori Ziner. Please leave your message." If you don't feel comfortable leaving your name on your voicemail, simply say, "Hi, you've reached," and then leave your phone number, 336-543, da-da-da-da-da. And that can serve as your voicemail. Meet with a career coach. We want more eyes on your resume as possible, and that is something that we at NC Works can do, is help you with your resume. Create your tailored resume and save it in a location, an e-version that you can find again. I don't want you spending all this time working on your resume and then losing it. So keep it in a location you can find again, and keep a copy that you can continue updating as you grow professionally. So that's all I've got today for you. And I'm so excited that you all are journeying back into the world of work. And all of us are here to support you on your journey back to work. And we are excited. I always say the best part of my job is when people call and let me know that they've gotten a job. And I get just as excited as you are. So we are here to partner with you. And if you ever need help, my contact information is on that last slide. So please, please reach out to me, reach out to your network. All of us here are here to support you.
Tori, you did a fantastic job. Wonderful, wonderful work.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're giving you a virtual hug.
Yes.
You presented so much wonderful information about resumes, and things have changed because some of the things that you reviewed this morning and that we hear constantly, even from Thaddeus, is how, you know, some of the things we used to put on the resumes is not suggested anymore. So we appreciate NC Works. We appreciate all of the work that you're doing to help all of the job seekers out there through your work and through your time, your professionalism. We certainly appreciate you. Don't you agree, Heidi?
I so agree. And, you know, especially all the tips that you were given about putting all the extra eyes on there and making sure that you do not have typos and that thing, because it is so critical. It's a competitive world right now for jobs, and this could be the option of you moving to the next step or not. This is the first introduction to your future employer, and you got to shine. So
Exactly.
Tori, you were spot on, and thank you for all the work that you all do.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me here. And just a plug for next week, we will be having a interviewing session next week. And I plan on wearing my go-to interviewing outfit that I feel comfortable wearing in person and virtually. So I will be highlighting what I like to wear in an interview. So come tune in next week as well.
Also, next week on the interviewing process, we also have contacted Rob Sims of WRLP, and they have the store. And so he said that, you know, if it's okay, he would like to maybe get like 15 minutes to talk about the store, because they actually have where you can actually get a suit for $50. For $50, you can get everything that you need for an interview. You know, men and women.
Yes.
So, okay.
Absolutely.
So this series is just going to be a great next couple of weeks. And if you've missed this, what's great is you can always go back and look at it on one of our Facebooks, and make sure to share it with a friend. There's a lot of wonderful information that's being shared, and it's perfect. So until next week.
Yeah. See you all next week.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.